From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Greetings. Welcome to another Daniel A.P. Murray African American Cultural Association special event, co-sponsored by EEO-DP programs. Today is a very, very blessed and special day. I'm talking off the top of my head because I think I know Bern Nadette Stanis, aka Thelma Evans. We all do. Let's give her a warm welcome. Let's stand up for Miss Bern Nadette Stanis. Today she's going to be discussing her life and memoir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm overwhelmed. I didn't know so many people would come out this morning, but thank you anyway. I'm just going to give you a little briefing of my little life story and, how I got to certain points in my life and some lessons I've learned along the way from the parents that I've had and, living, 5 years on good times and, those things and how I became an author and things like that. Well, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn. I guess you guys know where that is, right? And it's the projects. So there were 5 of us. I'm the eldest of 5. And my mom and dad in a 2-bedroom apartment. So you can imagine. But my father's thing was education. With education and determination, you can do anything in the world you want. So he and mommy spent their money on educating us, putting us through parochial schools, all kind of private schools, dance classes, music classes, things like that. And, I can remember going to school. It was like 10 blocks away from, where we lived. And it was called Our Lady of Loretto. And on the way there, I learned a lot of things about the neighborhood, about life. And what we would see all the time would be the heroin addicts, going, when I was going to school. Now you know what heroin addicts do. And the hands on the heroin addicts were like 3 times the size that they should be. And what we would do is, as children, we would make bets as to which one would fall, which one would hit the ground first. And as you know, they never fall. It was amazing. They would go all the way down to the ground and never fall. We just thought that was amazing. So I'm just saying that this was the kind of environment I came from. And what my father always said was this: what's around you does not have to be in you. And he made sure that we understood that. He was a very wonderful daddy. He was very disciplinarian. He was very strong in that way, education and being disciplined. Mother, on the other hand, a Southern gal, from Jeanette, Louisiana. She was very, very soft-spoken, but very, very stern. And she meant what she said. Some of the lessons that I learned from them, I'll just jump ahead. My grandmother put me in dance class at the age of 5 years old and told my mother to keep me in dance. And I think she did that because she knew that if you're busy doing something positive, is less opportunity to get into something negative. So I stayed in dance class all of my life to become a dancer. Now, I remember one of the lessons that I learned from my mom. I was about in the 10th grade. No, I was about in the 5th grade now. I was 10 years old. And there were 2 girls in my class that I wanted to be a part of their clique. That's what I learned about cliques. And I wanted to be a part of them so badly because they were beautiful, they were smart, they were everything I wanted to be. I was the type of student that I was very creative, but I was like a B, C student. So they didn't want me in their clique. I figured this out from the 1st grade to the 5th grade. Now, what I figured out was this: if I can become an A student like they were, then I would automatically, be part of their clique. So I studied and I became an A student. This one test was very, very hard, and I got an A, and I was so excited, so happy. So at recess, here I am, they're playing double dutch. Y'all know about double dutch? And I am walking over to them, and I'm saying, okay, can I play? And they looked at me like they always looked at me and said, no, you can't play. Well, that was a lesson that I'll never forget because it really, really hurt me. I did not understand that. I didn't understand why I was not accepted, why they didn't like me. So again, I go home that day crying, asking my mommy, why don't they accept me, mommy? Why? And she says, I don't know why, Bernadette. I really don't. She said, but listen, you are very creative. You can dance, you can draw, you can paint, you can write. I'm like, that's not what a child wants to hear in a situation like that. So I moped around that whole evening. And I'm very religious, and I believe in God very strongly. And I think that is because my mom did too. And sometimes I believe that we get messages from God to help us guide our children. And I know that this had to have happened for my mother this day. So she came in the living room and she sat right next to me and she said, Bernadette, one day the whole world is going to know your name. Yet she didn't tell me that Thelma would be the first name instead of Bernadette. She told me that part. So I said, okay, Ma, whatever. But the click thing faded away, and I continued on and to do what I, do. Another lesson was this. I learned a lot about my mother's character from this. There was a beauty pageant, and I wanted to be in it, but I was too young. The pageant, Miss Black America, was from 18 on, and I was about 14. And my mother said, there should be a pageant for teenagers. They want to get in these things too. So of course, being the mother that she was, she went to the head of the pageant, thing. And Mr. Hal Jackson was the leader then. And she went over to him and she said, Mr. Jackson, my daughter is 14 and I know a lot of teenagers want to get into pageants, so why don't you have a teenage pageant? The very next year, he had that teenage pageant. So, what I learned from that was that when there is no way, you can make a way. If there's no door, you can make a door to walk through. And my mother made that door for me. Now I am going to the beauty pageant every Sunday with my mother and her other 4 children, so all the way to Manhattan. So it takes about an hour to get there. We did this for about 6 weeks, and the 7th week was the pageant that Sunday. And I got up that morning, and I looked in the mirror, and I said, I am not going to that pageant. Not me. I meant that too. So I moped around. I looked kind of strange. My mother said, you better start getting dressed. It's about that time. I said, Mom, I'm going to tell you something. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going. She laughed, right? She said, you better get dressed. Stop that. I'm like, no, I really mean it. I'm not. And she said, yes, you are. So, I don't bucker too much, but I acted out. I moved like molasses. I was hoping that I would move so slow that the pageant would be over when we get there, but it wasn't. Finally, we're on the subway. And I would not sit next to her because I'm very angry at her by this point. And, if you do have a little bit of asthma, you can make asthma. So I sat up there and I mustered up an asthma attack. Oh, yes, I did. I did it. I went until I couldn't catch my breath. So by the time we got off the subway, here I am. Ma, I can't. We know our children. My mother looked across the street at the drugstore, and she said, "You see that drugstore over there? We're going to go over there, get that Primatine Mist." Now, you know Primatine Mist you can get back in those days. And you're going to take it, and you're going to get on that stage and do what you're supposed to do. No, all that. So I just said, well, boy, it's over now. I got to get well, and I got to get up on that stage, and I did. And it was that Sunday that a man came to my mom and said, "You know, we're looking for a teenager for a show, and it looks like your daughter could fit right in. And so we're going to give you this card. We would like you to go to CBS tomorrow, meet Norman and Leah, and, audition." So my mom took me the next day to CBS, and we go up to the room, and we open the door, and there are thousands of girls. I'm like, wow. So anyway, I knew not to act up because, the day before wasn't so good for me. So anyway, I sat there and I started thinking to myself, I thought about something my dad always said: "What's for you, no one can take from you." And I kept saying that and saying that. So when they called me in, I see Norman sitting there, behind the desk, Norman Lear, the producer of All in the Family, Jeffersons, and all these different shows. And of course, I saw Jimmy Walker standing there with that dumb hat on his head. So they give me a script to read, and the script looks like it's somebody who wrote it, what they thought a teenager in the ghetto should say rather than what she says. So I say to Norman Lear, "Mr. Lear, is it okay if I can improvise?" Now, because I have been taking acting classes for a while, I knew how to improvise. So he looked at me and he said, "Yes, go ahead, improvise." He's got hundreds of girls to audition. So anyway, I get up there and I say to JJ, I said something like, "Look, JJ, you better help me clean this house before Mommy gets here. I mean, you better wash those dishes, or you better take the garbage out, something." So he says, "Well, I'm not washing dishes, and the garbage ain't full, so I'm not doing anything." So I'm going back and forth, back and forth. So I hit him. I did. I hit him. I hit my brothers. So, so I hit him on the arm, and he goes, that long face he makes. And so we go back and forth, and Norman started laughing. So after that audition, I didn't hear anything back from them for like 2 months. So after 2 months, you just say, well, okay, it's over. And after 2 months, I got that call. My mother got that call that I was Thelma. Thank you. But what I learned from that was this. That morning that I got up and I looked in that mirror and I said, "I'm not going," it was only because of fear. I was afraid that I was not going to be picked, or that I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not enough. And fear got a hold of me, and it worked it. It worked it. And what it taught me was this: don't let fear stop you from walking into your destiny, because truly good times became my destiny. Although I always wanted to be a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, only because I love the way the mind is and why people do the things they do, and especially got more interested in it as I, grew up and started dating. Now, I'll get back to that. Now, on Good Times, it was very, very interesting because I was like the newcomer, didn't know anything about anything. I was just so excited to be around them, and, them, meaning the stars, Esther Roll, John Amos, Ralph Carter, and Jimmy Walker, and Janae Dubois. They all were so acclaimed, even at that time. And I learned a lot of lessons, and, I have a lot of lessons in my books, too, that I talk about what I've learned. But it was one day I was at Esther Roll's house. Now, Esther Roll and I became very, very close because I wouldn't let her go home by herself. I was always there. I would say, "Mom, can I go home with you? She said, why? What do you want from what? I said, no, I just want to be, I loved her. I just wanted to be around her. So she just accepted me as a daughter because I wasn't going anywhere. So here we are rehearsing our little lines. Now remember, in the beginning, first 6 months, all Thelma had to do was say, hi, Mom, hi, Dad, shut up, JJ. She was in the bathroom, right? So this went on for like 6 months, and I was getting bored. It really was. So I said, Mom, I'm getting kind of bored. I think I could do more lines. I think I could do more. I want to do more. And she goes, oh, really? Yeah. She says, so you want to do more lines? I said, yes. She says, she waited a long while. And then she said to me, okay, let me handle this. Oh, I was so happy she said that. I wouldn't know how to handle that. So the Friday that we had the reading, because we always have readings for the next script on Friday, again, my lines were, good morning, hi, Mom, hi, Dad, bathroom, hey, shut up, JJ. That's it. So at the end of the line reading, Esther said to the producers, because in the line reading we have the producers, the writers, everybody's there. And she said, I want to ask a question. And they said, of course, Esther. What it is. She's the star, so she, does what she wants. So she says, I want to ask something. Are you ashamed of my daughter? And they said, no, why? We're not ashamed of her. Well, then why are you hiding her? We're not trying to hide her or anything. So she said, well, I want my daughter to have more lines. I want my daughter to have a voice. My baby son has a voice. My oldest son has a voice. And I want my daughter to have a voice. And so from that moment on, I had a voice. Thelma had a voice. She had an opinion. So I give Esther Rolle all the credit for giving the first black female teenager on television her voice and her opinion. Get a little water here. Yeah. Now, while on the show, some things happened. While on the show, I lost my voice in the 3rd year. What happened was I would get up in the morning and I would sound like me, but by 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock, I started to sound more like a man. And then in the evening, I could hardly talk and my voice started to hurt. So I went to a specialist to find out what was going on. And he said that you have nodules on your vocal cords and they have to be removed. So I'm saying, okay, so what did that entail? So they said, well, once we remove them, it's 2 ways that it can go. You could lose your voice or you can get your voice back. But you will have to be quiet for about 6 weeks. Quiet, me? I'm always on the phone. I'm always talking. I can't quiet for 6 weeks. So I told the producers what the doctor said and everything. And so they suggested that after the operation, what I should do is study the lines, but don't speak. Just speak on Thursdays, tape day. And the doctor said that would be fine. And it ended up being very fine. So that's exactly what I did. But in that process, I realized, looking back that, since I do believe in God very strongly, I know that he moves in certain ways. And for me, I did not understand why my voice was silenced for 6 weeks. But in that process, this is what happened. I decided that I was going to write everybody's stuff. I get the pad, the pen, and you just write down everything and you show it to them, and then they can talk back to you. But back then, they didn't have Texts and spell check and all that. So that got ridiculous. So I just decided, okay, I'll shut up then. But in the process, God gave me something very precious. He gave me poetry, and he gave me stories, and he gave me the ability to write. I developed it right there and then, and I never stopped writing and writing poetry and beautiful things like that. Years later, like 30 years later, I kind of realized why that happened. My mom, by this time, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And before that, like I said, I always studied about relationships and things like that. So I knew a lot about relationships by this time. I used to ask my mother before she got Alzheimer's, I used to say when I was younger, hey, Mom, tell me, what should I do about this guy? And what should I do? And how should I handle this? And how should I handle that? And she says, well, Bernadette, I've only been married to one man. I don't know how these things work. So what you need to do is read everything you can read and learn. So that's why I did that. But okay, by this time I realized that I was working on a book, and the book came about like this. It's called Situations 101: Relationships, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And at first, I was just the girl that everybody would come to ask questions about relationships. Like I was the girlfriend that you would call. Guys, girls, they would call me. They would ask me something, and I would tell them, and it worked. So they always did that, except I had one girlfriend who would call me all the time, but this time she calls me like at 3 a.m, and she keeps calling me until I answered the phone. So when I answered the phone, she said, he's not home, he's not home. I'm like, who's not home? The same guy she was talking to me about for 3 years. The same guy, he's not home. Well, I said, how do you know he's not home? Maybe he's asleep. It's 3 a.m. No, he's not home. Why? Because I kept calling him and he wouldn't answer the phone. So how many times did you call him? About 15, 20, I don't know. 15, 20 times. This is a problem, and I can't solve it. So what I said to her was this: I'm going to write down some things for you so that you could put it on your refrigerator in the middle of the night. If you can't sleep and you're worried about him not being home, maybe if you read it, it'll calm you down till at least about 6. And if that doesn't work, then do like I do. Open the refrigerator and eat something. So she just whatever. And so anyway, I started writing these things down, and that's how I ended up writing this book called Situations 101, Relationships, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I did 101 different situations that I had heard and answers that I had given them. And I realized that, people really needed that. It was interesting. But in that process, I would always call my mom, and we would talk about the relationship stuff. And some of the things in the book is good, the bad, and the ugly. And I said, Mom, you think I should put that in the book? And she says, well, if it's real, put it in there. It may help somebody. Right after that book was done, my brother called me and said, it's time for you to come get Mommy, because Mommy's not doing so well. When I went to see her, I realized that she wasn't doing so well. She spoke well. She hit it well, but her hair wasn't right, and you don't put polka dots and stripes together. So I said, something is really wrong. I said, okay, Mommy, you're coming home with me, and we're going to go to, see what's going on, I never made her feel funny about it. So we went to the doctor, and they diagnosed her with Alzheimer's. And when the doctor did that, he looked at me and he said, your mother has something that we call, Alzheimer's. And I'm going to give you some medication, and you give it to her, and it should, help her out a little. I'm like, what? Help her out a little about what? What is that? Well, and he looked at me like this. And I got very angry with him because I thought that was rude, but not knowing what he knew. So I said, okay, we'll give her the medicine, but you know what? Mommy, we're going to fix this thing. We have come through everything. We're going to fix this thing. I'm going to give you a lot of vitamins, a lot of this, a lot of that. And I was fighting, boy, and I was on the internet, and I was asking questions, and I said, no, there's got to be an answer to this thing. This is not real. They said, there is no answer. There is no cure. I know there is a cure. This can't be happening. I fought for 4 or 5 years with there must be a cure, until I started seeing what it really was doing. The decline, and the mourning that a caregiver goes through while watching your loved one decline. My mother was so sweet, stayed sweet. It was wonderful. She didn't have a problem with it. I don't think she really realized how sick she was or what this thing was. And but I realized it. And that's why I wrote the book about the last night, a caregiver's journey through transition and beyond, because I realized that I took on the weight of this disease. My mother would eat and forget that she had eaten, and she would always invite me to eat with her. So I kept eating with her. Now she would get skinny and I would get fat. But I didn't even realize that I was gaining so much weight. I mean, I remember going to the store to buy some clothes because, my clothes weren't really fitting anymore. And so I tried on this size. I'm not going to tell you what size it is. I'm not going to tell you what size it is. And I realized, I'm like, oh, come on now. These people, come on. They're making the clothes too small. But then I really realized, I guess I had gained some weight, But that didn't matter to me. My mother was going. My mother was dying, and I knew it. And I'm still fighting with her. And everything she asked me or said, I said, yes, I agree. Everything's fine. And then one day we were watching Good Times, one of her favorites. And she was watching JJ and me and Thelma fight and everything. And she and I were just sitting alone. And she looked up at me and she said, that's a cute little old girl. And I said, yeah, Ma, she is. But at the same time, it was like a knife in my heart. It was twisted. Because this monster of the mind had taken away from my mother the very thing that had changed our lives. And I realized then, this thing is very serious. Very serious. And so I said, if and when that day does come, I'm going to form a foundation for my mother called Remembering the Good Times and Alzheimer's Foundation in her honor. But anyway, that day did come. And if we have a few more minutes, I'll explain it, but sure. If we do? Yes. Okay. Good work. The reason why I call it the last night is because the day before the last night I spent with my mother, I was a nervous wreck. I felt something. It's as if God was whispering in my ear, And everything was going wrong. Everything. By this time, Mother had stopped speaking. She was speaking, but she was not swallowing. She was not. So she's in the hospital with the tubes down at her throat and all this other stuff, and they're telling her that she's going to get a splint in the arm and everything. My mom does not want all that. So anyway, the day before, I was panicking, and I told the doctors, please, my mother doesn't look well. Is there more medicine you can give her? Is there anything else? More oxygen, something? And they're saying, your mother is very ill. I said, I know she's very ill. That's why I'm asking you to give her more medicine. Help her. Give her some antibiotics. Give her something. They said, okay, we're going to do that. Because they realized I'm one of those that, didn't see the light. So that evening I went by there. I went by to see Mommy, and I said, Mom, it's about 10 o'clock now. I said, Mom, I'm going to go to the Alzheimer's Association tomorrow morning, and I'm going to speak about you because, I had to speak about, Alzheimer's that morning, the next morning. So I said, but I'll be here about 11 o'clock, okay? She said, fine. She nodded. She heard me. And so it was just myself and my daughter, who was about 16 at the time, my baby daughter. And she and I went home, and she laid on one couch, and I laid on the other couch. My husband was in New York at the time, and my older daughter was at her apartment. So about 2:30 in the morning, the phone rang, and I froze, and my baby said, Ma, answer the phone. It's the hospital. Answer the phone, And I didn't. I let it go to voicemail. She said, Mommy, you better call them back. So I listened to my voicemail, and they said, come in because your mother's vitals are failing. And you never know what you're going to do at that moment when you've had your parent all of your life and that moment is here. So what I did was I really froze. Now, I know that it was coming, but at that moment I froze, and I couldn't move. And she's saying, Mommy, come on. I'm standing there, walking around, talking in a circle, saying, this is it? This can't be it. This is it? And I could not get it together. And so thank God for that 16-year-old girl. She gave me my pants. She said, Ma, come on. Here are your pants. Put them on, Here's your shirt. Put it on, Here's your hair. Put it on. Glad she said that. So I got myself together, and she said, here are your keys, Mommy. I can't drive yet, so you have to drive. So I'm driving, and I'm praying, I'm asking God to, what am I going to see? What is she going to look like? What am I going to say? What am I going to do? And by the time I got to the hospital, my older daughter was there. My baby daughter was on this side, my older on this side, and I'm in the middle, and we're getting ready to walk through that door. And just before I walked through that door, it was as if God just put something in my head, and he said, this is going to happen, but don't make it bad for her. I knew exactly what he meant, because my mother and I are very, very close. And if I had just done something like, I knew would hurt her. So I walked in and I said, Mommy, I'm here. I'm here with you, and I don't care how long this thing takes. A day, a minute, an hour, a year. I'm not moving. I'm going to lay down right here beside you, Ma. And I asked the nurse, I said, could you please just move her over just a little bit so I can lay down right? Oh, we can't do that. I said, well, maybe you can't, but I can. So they moved her over, and I laid down by Mommy. I put my leg on her leg. I put my arm on her arm. And I was going to put my head on her chest, but, she had that respirator thing going. And my mind said, if you do that, she won't be able to breathe. So it's funny what your mind says, And so I got a pillow. They gave me a pillow, and I lay down. And I was just laying there, and it was very, very peaceful in that room. Mommy was very, very peaceful. It was as if she was okay. She was okay with everything. And I lied down there, and I saw a clock on the wall. And the clock said 2:30. And everything was so quiet. And I fell asleep. I fell asleep in my dying mother's arms. And when I woke up, it was 4:30. And I panicked. And I'm looking over to see, and Mommy is still looking around, still peaceful, still looking around. And I said, thank you, God. I didn't miss it. I didn't miss my mother. And then the pastor came in, the priest came in and gave her rights. She's Catholic. And my older daughter came in the room, and my baby daughter came back in the room because they were in the other room sleeping. And so she said, Mommy, her eyes don't look right. And I knew. And I said, well, okay, show her the picture of Jesus. So she showed her the picture of Jesus. And she said, Mommy, she's not looking at that. I don't know. I said, well, show her the picture of Mary, because I know she loves Mary. So she showed her the picture of Mary, and she said, Mommy, her eyes don't look right. She's not looking like she's looking through the paper or something. And I went around to the side where Mommy was, and I looked in her eyes, and she was looking around and looking around. And it was as if she was looking in amazement. And I said, Dior, I think she's looking at the real thing. And at that moment, I could see the eyes going a little darker, a little brown, and the little red blood shots were coming. And I said, I can't believe I am looking in the eyes of death. I can't believe this. I couldn't believe it. And I knew something said, start talking. And I said, Ma, I love you, Mommy. I love you. 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 Love you. I 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 love you. And I said, I know you love me too. I said, but we had fun. We had fun, Ma. We had a good time. But it's not over yet. She left. Then they escorted me out because they had the code blue and they tried to bring her back. And they asked me, do you want to bring her back? Yes, bring my mother back. Yes, bring her back. Bring her back. So they brought her back. And by this time, my daughter had called my brother, who is a pastor. And they said to me, we got your mother back. I said, I got her back. Okay. And he told me, Bern, you know, you got to let her go. You got to let go. It hurts to do that. I said, no, it doesn't hurt. So then she said, and then I said to my brother, I said, Kyle, I said, something very weird happened. I said, when I was laying there with Mommy, I said, I fell asleep in her arms for 2 hours. I said, how could I have done that? He said, because it wasn't for you. It was for her. And she knew that if I could fall asleep, I would be okay. That was God telling her Bern would be okay, because she always worried about me. You know, the others would be fine, she said, but me. You know, so the nurse came back in and said, you know, I said, no, it's okay, let her go. And so they said, you can see her if you want. Come back in, you can see her if you want. And I'm so scary. I'm like, no. I said to my baby daughter, who's 16, she said, I'll go in, Mommy. I'll look at her. If she looks okay, I'll let you know. If not, you don't have to come in. So she went into the room and she looked at her. She said, Mommy, she looks like she's sleeping. So I went in the room and I looked at my mother. And we all know that the hearing is the last to go. So for about a half an hour, you know, they can hear. So I saw a little tear like in her eye, and her mouth was a little open from the track being in there. And I said, Mommy, I'm going to close your mouth. I'm going to close your eye. And I'm going to wash your face for the last time. And I did that. I put her music on. It was the most peaceful night. It was incredibly peaceful. I understood it. It did not feel like a death. It felt like she just transitioned, because I always felt her with me. It was incredible. I told her she was beautiful. I let her speak to my brother. I let her speak to one of my friends. I let them speak to her. And I put her music on. And then, of course, you know how pastors are. They're like that. In a minute, they were there to take my mom. I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, they got the black bag. You know, wait a minute. I said, no, I can't see this. So my baby daughter, again, said, Mommy, I'll stay with her. You go. So I left, and she stayed with her all the way down till they put her in the truck. So that was an incredible, incredible night. And I had to write about that night, and I had to write about the story. And the reason why is because when I said it's not over yet, it isn't over yet. The fight to fight against this Alzheimer's disease is not over yet. And it was given to me to fight because I feel that I have to take this face that my mother gave me to put to the face of Alzheimer's and fight so that her death wouldn't be in vain. And that's how I felt about that.
Let's give her another round of applause. We'd just like to say that our Thelma is still beautiful and fine. At this time, we'll have a reading from her book by Iris Taylor.
This is a passage from her book entitled The Last Night. Whew. This is the before. Mom had made it to her 80th birthday, even though she'd been battling illness that threatened to take her life. She was in critical condition with a temporary tracheal tube in her mouth and down her throat. But that didn't stop us from celebrating not only her 80 years on this earth, but my appearance on the television show, The View, that morning. From the day my book, Situations 101, Relationships, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, came out, she told me that she wanted to see me on the show. Her wish came true on her birthday. Friday, September 30th, 2011, my appearance was like a birthday present to her. There I was on TV with Jimmy J.J. Walker talking about good times and my relationship book. I bought Mom a dozen balloons with one huge balloon that said, "Mom, I love you, so happy 80th birthday." I held Mom's hand and we played music. I know she enjoyed me being there because when I said, "Mom, I'm here," she showed me excitement and opened her eyes. I was happy and felt a sense of accomplishment, but fear and anguish had their grip on my heart. But I never let my mom know the pain that I was enduring, the pain and the fear that became my constant companion. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. At this time, we will have questions coming from you all. If anybody have a question you'd like for Bernadette, would you stand up and state your question? Anybody? Okay.
How you doing?
Fine.
Out of your 3 books, it seems like this one is the most, it's very personal to you.
Which one? This,
The one, yes, this one here.
that one, yeah.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you consider your favorite out of the 3, or is it just the fact that each one has their own identity? I know my favorite is the one just for men.
The poetry one. You can order it on my website, thelmaofgoodtimes.com.
Yeah.
But that was a nice book, that book of poetry. I really enjoyed writing that one. This one became very dear to me because this was the one that my mom kind of helped me with, when I would tell her about the relationships and everything and, stuff we would go through. The other one called Finances, Situations 101 Finances, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. You can also get that on my website. Was the second book that I wrote coming out of this one because touring this book realized that in relationships, a lot of relationships break up because of money, That's one of the biggest things, because we don't even have a relationship with our own money, first of all. So when we're sharing it with someone else, it can get pretty rough. So, yeah, because some people want to share, some people don't want to share. Some people are spenders, some people are savers. You marry a spender, you're a saver. Tug of war. Things like that. So we have fun writing the second book. But the third book, that one right there, I had to show who my parents were. I had to show what they did in the world, because they did so much. They sacrificed so much. Mother sacrificed so much. And to never be known for that, or to know that, you did so much and no one knows your name, things like that. So I said, I want to honor her for that. I want to honor my dad for that. And, where I came from, and that you don't have to always, look at a person because they come from a certain part of the world and down them, or, disrespect them or anything like that, because, we all, come from different places, and we all can grow with love, understanding. We all can make it.
Bernadette, we watched your shows over the years on Good Times, and the themes of a lot of the shows were very intense. One of my favorite episodes was with Debbie Allen, when she played the heroin addict who was about to marry JJ. Do you have a favorite Good Times episode that you enjoyed working with? And a lot of the characters are very well-known actors to this day, so everybody got to start back.
Yes, they did. Thank you for that. Well, I have a few. I particularly like the African Prince, because that was my show. And they gave me a two-parter. And then also The Wedding. Yeah. And then one of my very favorite ones was the one that when Penny was smoking and she put that. Yeah, Janet Jackson, and she put the cigarette underneath the couch, and nobody knew who did that. And I got a chance to play like 3 or 4 different characters that Thelma is. I became a witch, JJ's witch. Remember? Stuff like that. So I thought that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that one. Yes.
Yes. This past Saturday, I didn't know you even played in this thing, the Love Boat.
Yeah.
I didn't know you played. I saw you there. I was like, and what you call plays your
Clifton Davis. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I enjoyed that episode.
Oh, thank you very much. And I just played. Yes.
Is it true you guys have a Kickstarter campaign to start a movie, or?
Well, we had that last month, February. It only lasted for a month, and they told us to bid high, so we did. We said we're trying to raise $1 million, and that didn't happen. So, but that is because Kickstarter wasn't quite the platform for Good Times. There's not a lot of people knew about it, and then they couldn't find us when they did get there. So that didn't happen. But we have private investors, so the movie still might happen.
Last question.
Okay. I'm just curious. I look at a lot of the reruns, and I often wonder whatever happened to those Ernie Bonds, the artwork on that show, the Ernie Bonds originals, that one that did the network ever give them to you guys?
Oh, no. No. Ernie was on the scene, and those belonged to Ernie Bonds.
Right.
And now they belong to his wife, because he passed away a few years ago.
Yes, I remember. Okay.
I wish he had.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.